We are more than careers. We are we are more than careers. Hey everybody, welcome to We Are More Than Just Careers. We have a special episode for you, and we're gonna be talking leadership. Now, Sarah, what is your leadership philosophy? What you think? Give me a little bit of.
Oh, wow. I think leadership is more than just you supervising another person. It's not just about that. It's not about managing other people necessarily. It's about you managing yourself, your work, your projects, and also having other people come along with you.
I love that. So we got a special person that's going to be facilitating this, our very own career ambassador, Kate Summerhill. So she's going to be talking to me, to Sarah, to a few other of our colleagues about leadership. So you want to stay tuned to this. We are more than just careers.
Hi.
Yeah, this is We Are More Than Careers. I am Kate Summerhill. I'm a student here at UNT, and I am a biology major. But I am a career ambassador at the Career Center, and that is how we all know each other. So we're just going to give some quick little introductions around the room. So start with you, Lynn.
Hi, my name is Lynn. I am a graduate student here in the Student Affairs program. I'm also the graduate assistant at the Career Center, and I oversee all of the career ambassadors.
Cool. Hey everybody, my name is Eric Green, and I am a career coach for journalism and media arts.
Hello, my name is Sarah Spath. I am an internship specialist and I support colleges of engineering, information, CMHT, and College of Science.
And I'm Brian Hirsch, and I am the lead person for a four-member team that serves all of the students in the Ryan College of Business.
So today, we're just really gonna have a casual conversation about leadership and the stuff that you guys do at UNT and, how you reach out to students, all that stuff. So, introductory question is just, did you ever expect that you guys would be in the position that you're in today?
I did not expect it at all. I honestly chose this position because I didn't know much about career services, and I really relied on career consultants when I was an undergrad. And so I really wanted to strengthen that weakness of mine, and it turned out to be a passion and something that I'd want to do after college.
Yeah.
So cool.
Yeah.
It's cool. And I think for me, I just kind of, at first, whenever I looked at the job description, because at first I went to the University of Texas at Dallas.
Yeah.
And I looked at it, and I just wasn't into resumes, cover letters. I didn't know nothing about it, but I knew I wanted to get in higher education. So I seen that as an opportunity because it fit my background and some of my past experiences. So I got in there, and then I was like, man, I'm starting to fall in love with this whole resume, cover letter thing. And then I just kind of stumbled into it,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
but I like it.
There you go.
Yeah, I am very similar. I did not think I would be here when I was in college or when I graduated. I thought I was going to be an accountant for life, and that did not happen. Complete different direction,
Numbers,
and here I am. I still love numbers, but it's not what I do every day. So, no, I absolutely love it.
Yeah, well, it depends on what point in time you would have asked me this. If you would have asked me this when I was an undergraduate, definitely not, because I was planning on going to medical school.
Ooh,
Yeah.
If you would have asked me after I came back to get my graduate degree, I still wouldn't have thought so, because I thought I was going to end up somewhere else in student affairs. And but once I started my career path in career services, then it just kind of makes sense that this is kind of where I've ended up.
Yeah, there you go. See, I just think that's also interesting because it's such an interesting thing to ask, because most people, they come in as a freshman, sophomore to college, and they're like, I know exactly what I'm going to do. And then it completely changes, or they freak out when it changes.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's always good to stay open to opportunities. So
and stay open after college too.
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
So, and I think that's a huge stereotype that a lot of students have trouble facing, is limiting their options because they think that they have to stay on this one single track. So
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's awesome. So I'm gonna jump straight into some questions.
Okay.
So, what experience led you guys to your passion in life? Anyone can answer. So this can be, you know, we don't have to go in any specific order. Just, answer.
Like I said, I didn't think I was going to end up even in career services. I knew I wanted to do college student affairs. And what led me to that was that after college, I was doing a lot of work with my college fraternity, and I loved working with those guys. And so that's why I wanted to go back to school and work in student affairs. But I didn't really learn about career services until I was in my master's program, and I did like a short stint in the career office. And I thought, wow, this is kind of fun. And I don't have to worry about getting phone calls at 3 o'clock in the morning
Yeah.
for people doing stupid things
That
that doesn't thrill me at all.
Yeah.
There's very few career emergencies.
Yeah,
Mm.
you're right.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah. That's why you didn't go the medical route, right?
That's a different story.
Yeah, I think for me, man, once I stumbled into careers at UTD, I was still trying to figure out that whole dynamic, if I really wanted to do it, if I was, if this was something for me, because everything was new. Of course, when you get in something new, you just kind of like overwhelmed and just like trying to figure it out. But as I started to learn and as I started to see the impact that I had on students in this way, the more that I learned, I was like, man, I'm on the right path.
Yeah.
So how I stumbled onto my passion was when the pandemic hit, and it was just kind of chaotic where I was at, and it was a lot of pressure, and then it kind of boiled you down to what do you have to make a decision. Is this something important to you? Is this something? What are you gonna do? So I was like, you know what? It just hit me one day, and it said, man, I want to put students in positions to win, and that became my North Star. And it don't matter where I'm at.
Yeah.
So, and that's a part of leadership. It's like I want to use my resources, my opportunities, my responsibility to put students in positions to win no matter where I'm at. So once I decided on that, it became clear to me, this is my passion. And then I landed in UNT.
There we go.
And I'm in this spot now. So that's how I kind of stumbled into my passion. I just love then when you in your passion, it just feel like everything is natural.
It's easy.
See,
It is.
there we
Everything
go.
is natural. It just comes to you like, wow,
Yeah.
I don't know.
And
Y'all
that
got that feeling
happened
before?
later in your life, right?
Yeah.
Like that wasn't an instant thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I mean, that's the thing.
Well, and one thing that I will say about passion is
Yeah.
that a lot of students are in the mindset of, I don't have a passion.
Yeah.
And that's okay,
Right.
because a lot of people don't have a passion, at least not when they're starting.
Yeah.
In fact, I think it was I'm blanking now. The owner of the Mavericks, Mark Cuban.
Mark Cuban,
Yeah.
Mark
like
Cuban
money
said-
man. I was
I
thinking
wanna
money, money.
Mark Cuban even had a quote about that at one point. He said, "Don't worry about what your passion is." He said, "Start your career off, get really good at something, and you will find your passion."
Yeah.
And I think that's a great way for a lot of people, a great pathway for a lot of people to follow if they really don't know what that is.
Yeah.
So I always tell students, don't panic
Perfect.
if you haven't figured that out yet, because it's at some point it'll happen. But the first thing is to think about where's the best first place for you to land after you graduate.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. No, that's
Definitely.
perfect. Yeah.
And I love that because that's actually what happened to me. I was in this realm of, okay, I know I can do numbers. Let me try something out.
Yeah.
I did it for a few years and I was unhappy. I didn't like it. And I love this question because I had a person he was an HR person that I met. I sat down with him and I just said, I know myself. This is not where I'm supposed to be. And he gave me a couple of actual physical resources where I could go and basically confirm what I already thought. And that conversation and that person, although he probably doesn't know it, he impacted the entire trajectory of my career.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool. See, that's awesome. Yeah, I mean, actually, that kind of segues into the next question of basically, who is your support system in terms of relationship, and how have they contributed to your personal development?
Ooh, that's a good one. Man, my wife, of course. My wife, of
Number
course.
one.
That's number one.
Number one.
I mean, because with relationships, you can find healing.
Mhm.
Before I got into that marriage, I was a broken person. I'm gonna just be honest with you. I wasn't unclear about who I was, and it just was kind of, it was a bad situation. But then when I met this woman that really invested in the relationship and really taught me the true meaning of relationships and sacrificing and grace and investing in yourself, long-term strategy and stuff like that. It motivated me, coaching me. I mean, and I was doing the same thing for her. So she was getting better.
Yeah.
That's when you know you're in the right relationship,
Oh,
when both parties are
that's
getting
good.
better. So
Yeah.
I contribute a lot of my personal growth to, my marriage and my
Yeah.
wife and just everything that she poured in me. I never would have went back to school to get my master's if it wasn't for her.
Yeah.
I never would have had a kid if it was a beautiful baby boy if it wasn't for her. I never would have thought from a father's perspective on being a better person if it wasn't for her.
Yeah.
So that's all I'm gonna say. It was
How
my
do you go
wife,
after
nobody else.
that?
I'm just saying.
Feeling the field.
I'm saying.
Yeah.
Saying.
How do you follow up with that, Eric?
Sorry.
Okay, I'll
That was
pick
a good
someone
question.
different. So,
Yeah.
although my husband's amazing, love you. I'm gonna go with someone else. So my mom was a big inspiration to me growing up because she was the first in her family to go to college and the only actually in her family to go to college. And she went to college for IT, computer science, because she knew that was going to be a booming industry. And she really created, along with my dad, a whole life for us. But she didn't like the work that she was doing. And because of that, she was brave enough and completely changed careers and went into elementary education. And she has told me throughout the years that it's not worth it to, go into something if you don't like it. You can always change it. Nothing has to be permanent.
For sure.
And so that she has inspired me throughout that when I was thinking about quitting my job and not having anything to go to, trying to go back to school for something totally different. She was there supporting me, through words, through everything. So
Yeah.
Hubby,
he's great
Hubby.
too. Very, actually similar to what you said about your
Yeah.
work though, I could not have ever gone back to school if it wasn't for his support in every sort of way. It meant a lot.
Yeah, I owe a lot of my success to all of the higher education student affairs staff, honestly.
Nice. Yeah.
Like, I would have never gone into grad school. I didn't believe in myself. And it really took a career consultant at my undergrad to really have that, confidence in me that I didn't have myself. And so I'm so glad that I listened to his support and, pursued something that, because my heart was in student affairs, but my mind and, I was like, oh my gosh, money. Money is in HR or something.
Yeah.
But I was like, my heart is in education.
Yeah.
So I really went back and forth with that for a while, but I'm glad that I stuck with my heart. And it's always really important to go with your heart and to leave somewhere if it's not making you happy and if it's not serving you anymore.
So actually, speaking for students who may not know what a support system or a healthy support system is, what advice would you give to students to help identify that support system in their life?
Well, I think first of all, we do provide some resources as a university and a career center to help with that. One of the first things that I would say is, I think a lot of students don't feel that they can approach their professors, but it's really, in most cases, not in every case, but in most cases it's the exact opposite. The reason the professors are doing what they do is because they have a passion for their students. And so I would always tell students, don't be afraid to talk to your professors and see what they have to say. They may or may not be that helpful.
Right.
I think we have this mentoring platform called Mean Green Mentors, and we have this group of alumni who have basically said, and they're making themselves available to our students.
Right.
It's part of their way of wanting to give back to the university, and also to sort of pay things forward a little bit. So that's another really great resource that's out there. I would plug into student organizations, and particularly with leadership in those student organizations. And it always amazes me. There are some student organizations where we've got student leaders doing incredible things, and they have so much passion for what they're doing.
Yeah.
And they're just they're leaders, and they're very good resources. So that's another network to go out there to, and sort of beyond all of that, just searching for people who do work that is similar to what you think that you might want to do.
Yeah.
Again, I think people love to talk about themselves and share their experience.
Yeah.
And if you ask, a lot of times they're willing to give.
Right. Yeah. How far will you guys go to support a student that comes into your office?
As far as I need to.
Man, it makes me think back to this recent situation that I had. It was a student that came in. I met with him before briefly, with you, Kate, actually.
Oh, okay.
The guy that came and was talking about journalism internships.
Yes,
You mentioned
yeah,
all
yeah.
those resources. So he was in a crunch, and he came in last week, and he didn't set an appointment. He didn't, and it was a busy day for me too.
Yeah.
So I was like, man, I could have pushed him off and said like, hey, you go ahead and set an appointment, and then just make him go through all of these hoops and bounds.
Right.
But because I built the relationship and I understood that he was really passionate, we had a great conversation,
Yeah.
and I really seen that he really wanted something
Right.
more, and at that time he was looking for an internship. He stopped volunteering. He was looking for an internship. So I said, you know what? I got 15 minutes. Let me sit down with you before I had a big next activity or event. Let me sit down with you for 15 minutes, and we're going to figure this out.
Right.
Sat down with him. I ended up connecting with an internship coordinator yesterday about an internship that I sent out to the students. But I took it a step further. I connected with her on LinkedIn, sent her a message just to build rapport. And then I met with the student and told him about the internship. I was like, man, are you interested in this? Yeah, man, I'm interested in this. So what I did, I emailed the lady and said, hey, I got this amazing student that I met with a long time ago. He's super passionate about doing journalism. He's looking for an internship in the spring. And then she hit me back maybe within 5 minutes and said, I'll be looking out for his application. All he have to do is apply. So when I say leadership and putting people in positions to win, no matter where I'm at, I have to think in terms of where I'm at. How can I do that regardless of how I'm feeling? Because I'm getting paid to do this work, but it's beyond pay. It's passion for me.
See, and that's
So
awesome.
if I see this brother, I don't even care if he even hit me back, but I gave him that opportunity that he never would have thought. Because he said he met with somebody else and they said, oh, I'll help you.
And
But,
then,
when he went back to him, it was like, go find some resources. No, I'm going to bring you in my office, 15 minutes. We're going to talk while I got all of this stuff going on because I care about your success and I seen you put an effort into it. Now, I do that with students that put effort into it, an initiative into it.
of course.
So that's me just going beyond just the scope of, my requirements.
And see, that is such an inspiring thing and comforting thing to hear coming from a student, because I think a lot of students have a lot of fear of coming into these offices and the fear of rejection from their advisor or professor or something, and going in with these high expectations of, okay, I'm going in to get something, and then they leave and they don't get it and they feel discouraged. And so it's really discouraging whenever an advisor or professor doesn't put in that same energy into you that you expect from them. And so it's really, it's just really comforting knowing that you're one of those people who don't let students down.
And I have to say, I have to guard myself too, because I'm just one human being.
This
And
is
if
true.
I overexert myself,
Yeah.
then I'm running myself thin.
Right.
And I agree with you, Eric. You know, one of the things is that's important to me is that students take initiative.
Yeah.
You know, I'm willing to, if you know, sometimes a student comes in and they're in the right place at the right time, and I know about the right opportunity,
Right.
and I observe that there's an obstacle, and I'm able to take that obstacle out of the way or smooth it out for them. I had a professor in my master's program, and one of the things he would tell us was part of your job in student affairs is to remove obstacles for students,
Yeah.
right? But the flip side of that is the students have to be willing to engage. You know, you can't apply for that job for him, right? He's got to go do that. You can kind of grease the skids for him, right?
Yeah.
To make it a little bit easier. She knows to expect him, but he's got to actually do that step.
Yeah.
And so, but you had confidence that he would,
Yeah.
which made you put your professional reputation on the line with this recruiter.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yep.
Right.
That's right.
Right. Yeah. So, what has developed or hindered your self-confidence? He's laughing about this.
Intuitive leadership
Great
questions,
questions.
boy. Woo.
Think on. Soak it in.
I think comparison has
Mm.
hindered my self-confidence a lot, and I think it's pretty common. And as much as I've put words to it, it still happens, and I have to keep reminding myself that it's someone's quote, right? Is that comparison is like the thief of joy,
Yeah.
and it really is. And as much as you can say, "Oh, I'm on a different path than this person. We have different lives. We have different backgrounds," it's very easy to fall back into that pattern.
Yeah.
And so you feel less, you're always going to compare yourself to what you think is better, how you view that. But then there's other people who are viewing you as that person, right? And so I always just keep trying to remind myself that we're all individuals and we're all people, humans with our own everything, our own
Yeah.
stories.
Right.
So that's, I think, the one thing that I've struggled with and still am
Right.
trying to get through that.
Yeah. What are some examples of the comparisons that you've made?
Sure. So I think a lot of it's people who either graduated with me, who are doing things that are perhaps at larger scales, bigger levels. Like their titles are higher, they're making a lot more money, they're able to afford a lot more things in their life, or they seem like they also have kind of everything in their life is together. So their families, their friends, they have all these amazing things that they're doing every day. And as we know on social media, it's like, when are you ever gonna put on there, I had a breakdown today? It's generally not what you're using it for. So a lot of things, but in terms of professional life, it's definitely folks that I thought were we graduated at the same time in the same area, and I feel like maybe we're on different pages, but then I remind myself that I'm really happy. Like I go home every day and I'm very happy.
Right.
And that's all that matters.
Yeah. Right.
I think full transparency, I think mine's come from childhood. You know, my parents, they were amazing parents, worked hard, very committed, very strong. Just very, very great parents, supportive, amazing. But I think one thing that they not lacked, but just maybe was a challenge for me, maybe their level of understanding of raising a kid is allowing your children to have their voice. So they were old school. They were old school with it. Just like, a child is to be seen, but not heard. So that's a different type of way that you raise it. But I appreciate everything that they did, because now, I used to struggle with that. Like even getting in spaces to where I was afraid to use my voice because I wasn't confident in who I
Yeah.
was. I was just like, man, nervous, scared,
Right.
because it takes me back to that childhood to
Yeah.
where I had those experiences. But it made me, because of that experience, it made me who I am today. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Because that happened to me. If that wouldn't have happened to me, I don't know who I would be. I love who I am. You know,
Yeah.
I love what my parents did. I love that I can change my mindset
Mhm.
and just fully express who I am and
Yeah.
let my voice be heard, take initiative, and not be afraid of what other
Right.
people think. I mean, sometimes I have those moments, but not be afraid to take a risk
Yeah.
because now I know who I am.
Right.
And it goes back to my wife. Because I met my wife. When you talk about relationships,
Yep.
that development happened
Yep.
during that time. So that's where I say it came from.
Mhm.
Kudos, I love you, our parents. Y'all amazing. But you know, as a child growing up, that's
Yeah.
one thing that they taught me as a parent, that I have to allow my son to cry. I have to allow my son to be himself,
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
express himself, to kiss him, to hug him,
Yeah.
to tell him like everything's gonna be all right, because
Yeah.
that emotional side is important for him,
Right.
that development.
For other students who were in similar situations like
Mhm.
that, because I mean, that's a pretty big chunk of people where their parents were very authoritative
Mhm.
and didn't let them express themselves. How do you think they can cultivate that expression now, or try to move past some of those like tough moments?
And I was talking to Sarah about this exposure therapy. Have you heard of exposure therapy?
Oh, no.
Expose yourself to what you fear. So, I mean, I was very afraid of speaking.
Yeah.
Let me go do it. I feel the fear. I'm nervous. I'm scared. I might have some, you know, I might not be perfect, but the more that I do it, I build that muscle.
Oof. Yeah.
You know, I build that confidence. And then when you know that you're doing well, because other people gonna tell you you're doing well, even though you probably like, oh, I'm comparing myself. I'm like, oh, I don't know if I did well, but I'm like, man, you killed that. You leaned in on that. Lean? You like, oh man, I think I could do well. And then when
Yeah.
you show up the next time, you do well. But
Right.
one thing that I love about fear is that it makes you prepared.
You.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
exactly.
You
Oh,
prepare
yeah.
well. It's like,
Over-prepared.
man, once I get to this moment, I'm going to study. I'm going to make sure that I got this down, because
Yeah.
now I'm about to be exposed to something that I'm very nervous about. At least I
Yeah.
can have it in my wheelhouse or practice on what I need to practice on when
Right.
I'm ready to perform.
Yeah.
So my preparation was different
Right.
when I was afraid. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So being afraid has some elements, but you just got to expose yourself to those experiences to
Yeah.
develop that muscle so
And-
you can be efficient.
And you know, Eric, again, this is one of the great things about UNT is that we have lots of resources.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So we may have some students in a position where their anxiety over
Mhm.
something is so high
Yes.
that their first step is to go get some help for that part of it,
For sure.
right? But then, you know, we have, you know, if you say you want to get better at public speaking because
Mhm.
you haven't had the opportunity to do that before, but you know it's something that you need to develop.
Yeah.
There are, whether it's a student organization or whether it's an organization like Toastmasters that we have a chapter here on campus, or there's any number of ways that you can engage.
Yeah.
And typically, and especially for freshmen and sophomores that are just getting started with that engagement, you're not immediately being thrown into the presidency of an
Right.
organization or
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah.
The first thing that happens is you might be on a committee to
Mhm.
plan an event or something like
Mhm.
that.
Mhm.
And so it's incremental steps that you take to
Yeah.
overcome some of those, deficits that you may realize that you have that they may come from your personal background or areas that you're not as confident in that you'd like to get more confident in.
Right. Actually, that's a good. So, on the topic of process, how have you learned to be patient during a process, or how have you kept yourself motivated during a process? Because I think that's something a lot of people struggle with.
that can be difficult sometimes if your expectation, and one of my best examples of that is our students who come in and expect to be good at math.
Yeah.
They take a math class and they compare themselves to the 5% or 1 to 5% of students who can watch the professor work a thing on the board, work a problem on the board, and they just get it.
Yeah.
And so they think because they don't get it, that means they're not good at it,
100%.
right?
Yep.
But the majority of people that are being successful in that class are doing the work.
Yep.
They're putting the work in.
Right.
So, what was your question again?
Yeah, that was good.
I was giving a good example.
No,
I think.
it's a perfect example because I mean,
Yeah.
a lot of students want the instant results.
Yes, right. And again, you really do have to put the work in most cases.
Yeah.
And don't let those students. We have some very, very gifted students on this campus.
Yeah.
And you can get into the mindset of, if I'm not just like them, then I can't be good at something too. And that's not the case.
Right.
If you look at any athlete, almost, you know, LeBron did not start.
Oh, LeBron is
He
such
did
a
not.
good,
He did not start off being LeBron.
No.
You know? He's worked like crazy all of his life,
Yeah.
and as an aging athlete now,
Yeah.
he's probably working harder than anybody knows
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
be able to maintain that level of excellence
Yeah.
that he has.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a good
That's
analogy.
Yeah.
That's good.
But I'll ask the question again. How do you guys stay motivated whenever you aren't motivated anymore? When something is taking too long or something isn't going your way and you're just thinking, I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore.
Okay, so I love leaning on the people that I'm surrounded by, my team.
Yeah.
I think that is the biggest source of motivation for me.
Mhm.
And if I'm not motivated internally, I can lean on my teammates to, share ideas and to get excited about something else and collaborate with other people. The really good thing about the Career Center is that we have so much collaboration with other departments. So I feel like there's never really time that you're bored and you're doing the same things over and over. It's always something new.
Yeah.
I think also giving yourself a break. Like, it's
Oh,
okay
yeah,
to
that's
not be motivated sometimes.
Biggest.
We're
Sure.
not, like, it's
Yeah.
just, it's a lot to ask to be on all of the time, and you give yourself a break, a mental break, a physical break, do something for yourself, give yourself an hour a day where you are just focused on yourself, and go back to it eventually. But I think that giving yourself that grace to say it's
Yeah.
okay that I'm not motivated right now.
Oh, absolutely.
That's perfect.
Yeah. So another question. What was a difficult yet critical lesson you learned that changed you for the better?
They're big questions.
Man,
I love it.
Okay, I guess I have one. So when I was an undergrad, I was a student leader, a student on campus, and I feel like sometimes looking at students, like you have all these expectations on them to do so many things, and I was like, wow, how am I, a sophomore, going to oversee 30 freshmen when I was just a freshman 6 months ago? I was like, this is so weird, and I just felt like, I don't know. It was kind of difficult to be in two different roles at the same time. And I know that a lot of students probably feel that way, right? They're like, am I in the right place right now?
Yes.
And everything. So it really just takes making mistakes and time to mature and getting there, because, we don't expect you to be perfect and to be these student leaders that have it all together, because, you don't, because you're a full-time student, you're doing all this great stuff. So.
Yeah, exactly. So,
Can you repeat the question one more time?
That was deep.
So,
No.
what was a difficult yet critical lesson you learned that changed you for the better?
I think that perfection is not the goal. Like, failure should actually be a goal,
Yes.
because that's the way you learn. Like, truly, if you did everything perfect always, how would you continue to grow yourself in areas that maybe you're not
Yeah,
strong in?
definitely.
And that's really hard for a perfectionist, like I was.
100%.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, coming from because I feel like a lot of students feel that they have to be perfect all the time, because they're always striving for that 4.0 or that, dean's list, president's list, all this stuff, and then they put their self-worth within their
Yes.
accomplishments.
Yeah.
How have you learned to separate your self-worth from your accomplishments?
Well, I mean, I think first of all, you should get to a point at some point in your growth as a person where you realize that every person has their own dignity and their own value.
Yeah.
And that's intrinsic. That has absolutely nothing to do with anything that you've ever achieved or ever will achieve in your life. So you have to give yourself that grace
Yeah.
to understand that you have dignity and value all on its own.
Yeah.
And I think, Sarah, you make a great point. I mean, it's okay to fail.
Yeah.
And it's okay not to do as well as you think. One of the things sometimes when students come to me and they say, "Oh, I'm doing so bad," and I go, "Well, tell me how bad you're doing." And it's like, "Well, I didn't make 100. I made a 95." And we're like, "Okay, you realize they don't put number grades on your grade report.
Yeah.
They just put a letter."
Right.
Okay? So, again, give yourself a break, and
Yeah.
it's not even if you were to completely fail, the world would not stop turning tomorrow.
Yes.
The things continue to go on,
Yeah.
and what we have to do is say, what did I learn from that?
Right. 100%.
Right?
Yeah.
So I've been to kind of wrap this up because you've been doing a phenomenal job with asking some of the deepest questions about personality, about character, about changes, challenges, and I think we all had great things to say. But my question to you, to end it off,
Yeah.
I'm putting you on the spot.
Okay.
What are some leadership components, or what are some leadership themes that you gathered from what we said that could be shared with?
It's definitely one is experiences. I mean, experiences are everything, and whether good or bad, they completely make you into who you are, and they motivate you and they inspire you to be in the positions that you're in, and they help you find your passions and things like that. I mean, if you're going in a linear direction of up all the time, I mean, there's things you can miss. I mean, it's never this linear path. You found one of your passions later in your life. You found out that you didn't want to do accounting first coming out and things like that. And so it's just, it really makes you excited to see what your future holds. I mean, and nothing is certain.
Yeah.
And that's not scary. That's something that's really exciting. And I feel like so many students, they want everything to be so certain. But from a leadership perspective, you want to keep your mind open, and you want to be open to experiences, and you want to fail. I mean, you want to go through those hard times. You want to go through those good times, because that's what develops you into a real and authentic person. Because, I mean, nobody has it all together all the time, And so, and the other thing is, in the terms of mentorship, that is a huge thing within leadership. That also makes you who you are, that develops you, things like that. So I think authenticity, mentorship, being open to experiences, and, not being afraid to fail, and, learning how to navigate through fear. Fear is okay. Not having motivation is okay. Everyone's individual, has their own experiences, and that makes you who you are, and we should be okay with that.
Man, I think you described Superman. No. But I do want to end off on this story.
For sure,
Just how all of this came about is you took initiative to reach out to me because you took a leadership class.
Yeah.
And you had a conversation. You were asking me about leadership. And I think you even met with Destiny. Did you meet
Almost.
with
I tried to, but almost.
Okay, but you were curious about leadership. Asked some phenomenal questions, and then I asked you, it was like, hey, how do you want to do a conference, a leadership conference? Unfortunately, that wasn't able to go.
Yeah.
But I was like, how can we pivot to make this happen so we can contribute to, on a digital level, to the department that was putting on that leadership situation or that leadership conference. So this is how all of that came about, because you said yes. Sometimes leadership, you just have to say yes and then go with it.
Just
Now,
say yes. Yep.
somebody said that it's okay to fail.
Yep.
But
Yep.
I don't think you failed on this one.
Absolutely not.
I don't think you failed on this one. So, Kate Summerhill, we appreciate you for just being a phenomenal
Yes.
career ambassador
Oh,
and, you know, just really, really having this conversation with us. Do you have any final thoughts as we leave out?
Oh, no, not any final thoughts, but I'm just really grateful that you guys got to like sit here and we actually got to talk and things like that. And so, yeah, but thank you for taking the time out of your day to do this, for sure.